Picture this. It's February 1948, and you're in the Strait of Malacca. It's one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Everything's running like clockwork. A totally routine day. But then, a signal cuts through all that normal radio chatter. And this one signal is about to kick off one of the greatest and creepiest maritime mysteries of all time. That right there, that was the message that came through from a ship called the SS Ourang Medan. It's fragmented, it's terrifying, and it ends with the radio operator basically narrating his own death. And after that last word, just complete silence. So let's get into what happened next. So you might be wondering what made this message so incredibly alarming. I mean, distress calls happen. But this wasn't just a panicked voice on the radio. It was something way, way more reliable. Yeah, we're talking about Morse code. And back in the 40s, this was the gold standard for long-distance communication for a really good reason. Unlike a voice call that could get garbled by static or bad weather, these simple dots and dashes could travel for thousands of miles with perfect clarity. So when the other ships in the area heard this, they knew it wasn't a prank. This was absolutely real. And you can literally feel the panic building as the message comes through. It starts with a standard SOS, a request for a doctor, but then, very quickly, that changes. The situation is apparently beyond any kind of medical help. And then, after sending his position, the operator taps out his final, chilling words. I die. Well, the call was heard. An American merchant ship, the Silver Star, was nearby and immediately changed course, steaming full speed towards the Ourang Medan's last known location. Now, they were bracing for the worst, but they were not prepared for what they actually found. I mean, just imagine the confusion on that rescue ship. You're expecting to see a disaster zone, a ship on fire, taking on water, something obviously wrong. Instead, they find a vessel that looks perfectly fine. No damage, no smoke, just floating there in this eerie, unsettling stillness. And that silence was a huge red flag. A steamship like this should have smoke coming from its chimney, right? But there was nothing. The crew of the Silver Star blasted their horn, they shouted through loudspeakers, and got zero response. The Ourang Medan was completely adrift, a true ghost ship. At that point, they knew they had to get on board. So a boarding party was sent over, and the second they stepped onto the deck of the Ourang Medan, they were hit with this profound silence and, weirdly, an unnatural chill in the air. And this is where the story takes a hard turn into a full-blown nightmare. The very first body they found was a crewman, just frozen in a state of absolute terror. His mouth was wide open, his eyes were locked on something unseen, and his arms were stretched out like he was trying to fight off some unspeakable horror. And it wasn't just one guy, the entire ship. It was a tomb. They found the captain dead on the bridge, the officers in the chart room, the radio operator was slumped over his telegraph key. They even found the ship's dog frozen stiff in the middle of a snarl. The whole scene was just completely bizarre. You have the entire crew dead, all with the exact same look of abject terror on their faces. And here's the real kicker. There were no wounds, no blood, not a single sign of a fight or any kind of struggle. It was as if they had all been literally scared to death. The boarding party was obviously shaken. They knew whatever this mystery was, they weren't going to solve it out here in the middle of the ocean. The captain of the Silver Star made the call. They would tow the ghost ship to the nearest port for a full investigation. But it seems the ship wasn't about to give up its secrets that easily. The very moment the tow lines were attached, smoke started pouring out of one of the cargo holds. Then came the fire, and it spread with an unbelievable speed. The boarding party barely had time to scramble back to their boat before a huge explosion just tore the ship in two. And just like that, the Ourang Medan sank, taking every single piece of evidence with it to the bottom of the sea. So with no ship, no bodies, and absolutely no physical evidence, the mystery of the SS Ourang Medan instantly became the stuff of legend. And over the decades, a lot of theories have popped up. Some of them are pretty compelling, and some are, well, deeply disturbing. Okay, so the first hurdle any investigator runs into is this. There is no official shipping record of an SS Ourang Medan anywhere. But you have to remember, in the chaos right after World War II, it was actually pretty common to have these unregistered ghost ships or black fleet ships, usually involved in smuggling or other shady business. All right, let's talk about the most scientific explanation. The theory is that the ship was smuggling a deadly cocktail of chemicals. If some potassium cyanide leaked and mixed with seawater, it would create a toxic gas that causes rapid suffocation, which would totally explain the crew's horrified expressions. And if there was also some unstable nitroglycerin on board, well, that would perfectly explain the sudden fire and the massive explosion. But what if the ship was carrying something far more sinister than just smuggled chemicals? What if it was transporting a weaponized leftover from the war? And this brings us to the infamous Unit 731. This was a top-secret Japanese biological and chemical warfare unit during the war, responsible for truly horrific experiments. The theory goes that the Ourang Medan was being used to secretly transport their deadly creations. A tiny leak of a nerve agent could explain the swift, grotesque deaths, and a top-secret cargo like that would absolutely explain why the ship was never registered. The craziest part, a letter about this incident was declassified by the CIA in 2003, which kind of makes you wonder why they were holding a file on it for over 40 years. So in the end, we're left with these haunting questions. Was it just a tragic industrial accident? Was it a clandestine military operation gone horribly wrong, followed by a cover-up? Or was it something else entirely, something we can't even explain? The truth, just like the ship itself, seems to be lost to the sea, leaving us with one of history's most chilling and unsolved ghost stories.